In today's video, I wanted to begin my journey through the main story featured in BioShock 2. I originally played the first game for the first time on this channel, and I'm super excited to get into the sequel. Obviously, I've never played this one before either, so I really wasn't sure what to expect. I made sure to go in blind, feel out the story, and really just played it as I wanted to. I wasn't worried about endings or consequences, I just wanted to experience the narrative and have fun with it. I definitely was not disappointed, and I don't think you'll be either. For this video, I'll of course be playing through the game, listening to the dialogue, talking about my experiences, and discussing the story of BioShock 2. Like most games of its time, BioShock 2 starts off with the player picking their difficulty. This has a direct impact on enemy health, enemy damage, and the loot found in the game. When ready, the story kicks off in the year 1958. That's a full 2 years before Jack from BioShock 1 had crash landed on Rapture's doorstep. From this perspective, we see things through the eyes of a Big Daddy. He's escorting a little sister through Rapture and watches on as she collects Adam from dead bodies. As the little sister runs on ahead to find more angels, aka corpses, she ends up dashing through a party of some kind. Rarely do we get to see a civilized, organized gathering like this in BioShock. To me, this was pretty jarring. This is either a different part of society that we don't get to experience very often, or this was a timeline that was just far enough back before the fall of civilization. After a few moments, we can hear the little sister shriek and call for the Big Daddy. The player comes running over and witnesses a handful of bad characters surrounding the little sister.
You want some, big guy? Bigger they are, harder they are! Get out of here, freak!
There we are. He's perfectly safe now. This is not your daughter. Do you understand? Her name is Eleanor, and she is mine. Now, kneel, please. Remove your helmet. Now, take the pistol. Place it against your head. Fire.
And just like that, we get a pretty powerful introduction to BioShock 2. It's not a whole lot of information to go off of, but we did learn the little sister's name, Eleanor, and I think it's safe to say we've established an antagonist for this installment, the woman with glasses. From here, the timeline takes us 10 years into the future. This is well past Jack, Andrew Ryan, and Atlas, or Frank Fontaine. As my character wakes up, I can see that I'm still taking on the role of a Big Daddy. You'll find out soon enough, but it's the very same one from that introduction, the one who got shot in the head. What happened in between those 10 years is unknown. Taking control of my character, honestly, everything feels pretty smooth in this game. This time around, I'm playing with a controller, and while that may sound like nails on a chalkboard to some, it's definitely my preferred method for gaming. For the time being, I only have access to a drill in my right hand. This was the stereotypical weapon for Big Daddies in the first game, and it's only fitting that they make a comeback in the second. Wandering through Rapture, it looks roughly the same as it did in BioShock 1. Beaten up, torn down, full of carnage, and a shell of its former self. Walking into a big open chamber, I can see some kind of thing hopping around the other side of the room. It's gone as quickly as it came, but judging from the score that's playing, I'm guessing this is not a friendly entity. Continuing onward, it doesn't take me long to land at my first splicer. They're more or less the same as they were in the first game. Twisted and crazed humans that only care about one thing, Adam. For the time being, my drill does the trick for taking care of these foes. However, I know all too well that as the game goes on, it'll take a lot more to bring my opponents down. In the next room over, I spotted a mural that said, "Lamb is watching." Beside it was a picture of the woman with glasses. Putting two and two together, her name is Lamb and she's seemingly the new big cheese for Rapture. She more or less stepped up to the plate once all of the power struggles had died down between Frank Fontaine and Andrew Ryan. Although, her principles are quite different. At the end of the room, I noticed a Gatherer's Garden machine, along with a note on the wall that says, "From Eleanor." Interacting with the machine, my character takes the elixir that's inside and injects it into himself. If you remember, this is a plasmid. In particular, it's electroshock.
Daddy was sleeping for such a long time, and Eleanor has missed you. Find her and you'll be all better. Daddy!
By now, it's obvious that BioShock 2 is one of those sequels that relies heavily on you having played the first game. There's very little explanation for Rapture, the Big Daddies, Little Sisters, Plasmids, Splicers, Adam, etc. A lot of this is knowledge that you would have had to carry over from the previous game. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I guess I'd just say that it's not exactly a title that's pick up and play. I imagine most of you watching are already familiar with BioShock and its mechanics/features, so I'll try not to go too in depth with aspects that are from the first game.
At last, a signal. You, who are bringing this dead city to life, listen. My name, it is Tannenbaum. I know who you are, and I am in much need of your help. Please, find me in the Atlantic Express train station.
With that being said though, there are of course some story-related elements that leak over from BioShock 1. For example, for those who may not remember, Tannenbaum played a big role in Jack's story. She was the creator of the Little Sisters. She was a part of the project that took these little girls and turned them into those energy-ridden abominations. Tannenbaum regrets her role in everything and wants to undo those experiments, but it's too late. Everyone and everything is ravenous for Adam, and the Little Sisters are like a living grocery store. This is mostly what impacted BioShock 1. It was the hunt for Adam. It made Rapture go round. BioShock 2 is a little different though. This is where Sophia Lamb and her practices come in. She preaches a different outlook on the Little Sisters and Adam as a whole. She also has an alternate protection method for them, one that pushes out the Big Daddies and replaces them with something more sinister.
Big sister doesn't want you playing with me.
That is a Big Sister. They're the more agile and mobile versions of Big Daddies. Where the Big Daddies rely on strength and hardiness, the Big Sisters instead focus on speed and fluidity. They're able to bounce all around the room and can hit my character just as hard. They're challenging fights and can give you a run for your money if you're not careful. At this point, I've also got a hold of the most basic firearm that one could possess in this game, the rivet gun.
This is Dr. Sophia Lamb with a message for the people. Remember, Big Sister is always watching. To steal Adam is to steal from the Rapture family. Your family.
That's a small glimpse into what Sophia Lamb is all about. She claims to not believe in harvesting or harming the Little Sisters. She shuns and scolds those who covet this energy. Andrew Ryan and Frank Fontaine seem to use it as leverage over Rapture's inhabitants. Meanwhile, Lamb has found alternate methods to control the population. Unfortunately for me, this introductory fight doesn't get a conclusion. As soon as her health goes down to about half, she bolts out of the room and disappears further into Rapture. Continuing ahead, looting as I go, I soon entered another big chamber. This had all the marks and makings of an important encounter. Staring at the back end of the room, I spotted the Big Sister slashing away at the window. This caused the glass to break and completely flooded this section with ocean water. Under most circumstances, this would be a cause of death. However, in the Big Daddy suit, it's just another day in Rapture.
In that suit, even the ocean cannot harm you. This is good. But Rapture is the death of many great men. Alone, you will not last long. You can still reach the train station. Find me there.
Running across the ocean floor has a certain serenity to it. It's quite peaceful. As of this moment, there are no enemies or causes for concern. I could just take in the scenery, loot more items, and follow the arrow to my next destination. It doesn't take my character long to land at the big shot. I get eyes on Rapture as a whole, or at least a major section of the underwater city. From the outside, you'd never guess that it's like the Wild West, people murdering each other for their next hit of Adam. Continuing ahead, I soon spotted the big sister again. She swam up and over the next destination for the story, the Atlantic Express. Going on inside of the flood chamber, I activated the airlock controls and drained all of the water.
Ah, Herr Delta. You arrive, as the little one said you would. Come upstairs to the ticket booth, and I will offer what I know of you.
I'm one step closer to Bridget Tenenbaum and learning of my character's backstory. However, I'm also one step closer to opening the can of worms that is current-day Rapture, and by extension, BioShock 2.
Now most who survive are like this. Splicers. They're drug addicts. Vicious animals.
Again, you'll have noticed a brief in-game explanation for the splicers. Nothing too lengthy or in-depth, as the devs will have assumed you played through the first game. From here, I'm introduced to the new and improved version of hacking. Admittedly, hacking is a lot easier in this game than it was in the first. If you recall, BioShock 1 involved connecting corresponding pipes to one another in hopes of having a seamless pathway for the fluid/power to travel through. BioShock 2 is all about timing your button presses, ensuring the marker is hovering over a green patch and pressing the button when it's time. By trying for blue patches, you typically get some sort of bonus feature out of whatever you're hacking, although those patches are smaller and harder to time. Maybe the improved part of my description is debatable for some, as it's gotten dumbed down, but it's certainly straight to the point and a lot faster now.
This is Dr. Sophia Lamb. Andrew Ryan is dead, but the tyrant dwells within us all. Remember, we reject the gene. We reject the self. We reject the tyrant.
As I've said previously, it's about 8 years since the events of BioShock 1. A lot has changed in Rapture, but a lot has stayed the same as well. It's out with the old and in with the new. Rapture is once again under the control of a tyrannical dictator.
I know you. That symbol on your hand marks you a dead man. 10 years, Subject Delta, since I watched you put a gun to your head and pull the trigger. But take heart. Out of your pain, paradise was born. I don't know how you survived, but your suffering is over now. These men will ease your burden. Please understand that like all I have done, this is an act of love.
It is Sophia Lamb. She has found you.
In many ways, this feels like a mirror of Jack's first interaction with Andrew Ryan in the first game. You get a feel for who's calling the shots and just how much control they have over this place. Although, in BioShock 1, Jack was able to escape through the help of Atlas. In BioShock 2, the protagonist just gets plain lucky. An evacuation plan is set in motion for them, aka falling through the floor and yet again landing at the base of the sea.
Now you know of the enemy we share, Sophia Lamb. The camera in your helmet allows me to watch through your eyes and help you to fight her.
The crawl through the Atlantic Express continues as somewhere down the line, I'm bound to land at Tenenbaum's HQ. Shortly after that whole ordeal, I got introduced to the concept of hacking security cameras. While not necessary, hacking can make my immediate future a lot less stressful. Security bots, cameras, turrets, they all offer assistance when it comes to clearing out the immediate area and sometimes beyond. The hacking darts are actually some incredibly useful tools, especially when it comes to turrets and cameras, where getting in close can often result in a negative outcome. Personally though, I haven't come across an abundant supply of these items, so I find that it's best to use them when they count the most. For example, in an area like this, where there's only 2 splicers, probably not the most efficient use of this finite resource.
Father,
It's me, Eleanor. I know you're awake in there. I can feel it. Mother won't be able to toy with you like that ever again. This plasmid is for you. If I'm right, you can use it now. Please, find me.
So, you might have seen a scene like that at the very beginning of the game, albeit it was much shorter. It seems as though Eleanor remembers who my character is, and in fact, wants to be found by him. So much so that she's able to smuggle out gifts like these, likely through the help of the Little Sisters, in order to aid me on this journey. This goes to show that whatever Sophia Lamb has in store for the Little Sisters, Eleanor, and the Atom, it's probably not for the greater good. Perhaps she thinks it is, but objectively, it's likely not. From here, I get access to my next plasmid, telekinesis. It works great for the obvious, picking up items and chucking it at enemies. However, it also works great for catching projectiles and explosives and then tossing them right back at my foes. It's an incredibly useful and satisfying power to have. Of course, the catch is that I have to steer clear of the blast radius, or else I get a small piece of the pie myself.
Sophia Lamb is using the splicers against you. Most big daddies are like her slaves, guarding the little ones. But someone has awakened you.
I know of your bond with Eleanor Delta. To save yourself, you will come for her. But Eleanor has a destiny, one you cannot share. There is no place for you in paradise.
So that piece of dialogue brings on an important and reoccurring theme throughout this series, free will. One of the big twists for the last game was that Jack was a sleeper agent. He was considered a tool by Andrew Ryan and Frank Fontaine. For the first half of the game, he had no free will and did as he was told, believing it to be the right cause. As for this protagonist, Subject Delta, they start the game in the opposite sort of scenario. He's apparently broken free of his conditioning. He's doing everything that he can to make it back to Eleanor, and that involves embarking on this grand journey through Rapture. After spotting the Big Sister once more and capturing the attention of some splicers, Tenenbaum screams for Delta to make a break for the elevator. I suppose the idea is that I'm vulnerable here and can easily get overwhelmed by the splicers, but not actually. This area is filled with objects and machines that I can use to my advantage. Items that can be hurled via telekinesis, and cameras that can be hacked for extra backup. When ready, I activated the elevator and started my ascension. Of course, as soon as that happened, all Rapture broke loose beneath me, as was probably scripted. However, there's nothing they can do to get me now, and it's on to the next stretch.
Now, here is what the children tell me. You are a very old Big Daddy, bonded for life to a single little one. When you are apart for too long, your body begins to shut down like a coma. As long as the girl is in the Rapture, you are trapped here as well. The name of your little one is Eleanor Lamb, daughter of Sophia. She is kept at Fontaine Futuristics on the other side of the city. You must go there and save her before it is too late.
So, we get a little more backstory for Delta and his purpose here on Rapture. From the way Tenenbaum described it, it sounds like the Big Daddies aren't necessarily assigned just one little sister anymore. Even if they are, Delta's little sister isn't exactly a little girl anymore. Eleanor would be a teenager or even young adult by now, as is evident through those visions. Unfortunately for Delta, the person he has to liberate and protect happens to be the daughter of Rapture's current overseer. Without Eleanor, Delta will die. For the time being, this is the premise of the story and my grand objective. Quite the conundrum that Delta's gotten himself into. From here, I'm introduced to a variant of special ammunition for the rivet gun. They're called trap rivets, activated only when an enemy walks over them. They'll definitely come in handy for what's around the corner.
You see? This is why I must fight Sophia Lamb. She is using the new little ones for something. And I have returned to rescue them. If I do not, more children will die for my sins. And the Rapture nightmare will repeat forever. Now, we must talk.
Citizens of Rapture, this is Subject Delta. Behind that mask hides an enemy of the people, without soul or sympathy. It is a beast apart, and as family, we must tear out its jaw and drive it back into the sea.
Lamb will take this place apart to find you. Please hold back the splicers until we escape.
This aspect of the game, holding off splicers for a specified amount of time, is also a reoccurring one. Personally, I found that this is an excellent time to use those trap rivets. Pop them on the floor, secure a position, and fire my gun at anything that moves. This instance seems to be based around eliminating a certain number of splicers, while future ones are typically related to a time limit. Fortunately, there are usually machines in the area that can be hacked and controlled. If there was ever a time to use those hack darts, it would definitely be during these circumstances.
Thank you. Now I must leave you, and I am sorry for this, but there are others I must help before the city drowns. This man Sinclair, he is an ally, and will guide you to Eleanor. Goodbye, Herr Delta, and good luck.
Well, look at you. A bona fide knight in armor, complete with iron horse. The name's Augustus Sinclair, Sport, Esquire. Old Tannenbaum and I share an interest in the old Fontaine building, the very same place you'll find Eleanor Lamb. I think you and I can do business. Take the train to Ryan Amusements. I'll see you shortly.
Stepping foot inside the train car, I'm ready to leave the Atlantic Express behind me. It's off to the next stage in this adventure.
Whoa there. Now better apply the brakes unless you're aiming to dash yourself against that glacier up ahead. As you can see, Chief, the station here's iced over. To reach Eleanor Lamb at Fontaine headquarters, we'll have to clear the way. Now, in order to melt that ice, you'll need a plasmid like a handful of hellfire. We used to sell a fine old product called Incinerate in the amusement park up yonder. Go on and find a way in. I've already been on all the rides.
Landing at Ryan Amusements, another detour gets thrown in Delta's path. This level is all about acquiring that Incinerate plasmid. However, there are other fun and interesting details / game mechanics that get thrown my way. Those come into play rather shortly.
You're a rare old model, son. Alpha series, I believe. Now, Rapture's full of scientific wonderments just like you. And if we can sell them to the world at my price, well, curing your condition ought to be a cakewalk. Once we find Eleanor, the sky's the limit.
I ended up locating my first weapon upgrade station. Admittedly, I might have missed one in the previous level, but at this point there's no going back. My goal right now is to max out the rivet gun. Since this seems to be the baseline for ranged weaponry, I figured I might as well have it in tip-top shape for whatever's to come. Plus, it's the gun that I end up finding the most amount of ammo for on a regular basis. Hacking my way further into the zone, I got a glimpse of another little sister Big Daddy duo. A bit of foreshadow for what's ahead. Although, first things first, I have to snag the entry ticket.
Jam dandy. That'll get you in the park. But buying Incinerate's gonna cost Adam. It's a sort of genetic goo that lets you rewrite whatever God gave you. The little sisters carry the stuff, as you may recall, so you'll need to locate one. I heard whispering near the El Dorado Lounge. Have a look.
This part is all too familiar with the first game. Adam still makes Rapture go round, and it's my key to getting stronger. Getting stronger means that Delta stands a fighting chance to find Eleanor. However, this usually comes with a moral decision, one that's based in greed. Something else that gives me a fighting chance is this brand new machine gun that I just picked up. This turret-like gun is great for dealing with a group of enemies at short distances. The accuracy isn't necessarily there, but the DPS and crowd control definitely are. Shortly into my search for a little sister, I came across my very first tonic. For those who don't recall, these are essentially passive buffs that I can equip onto Delta. Typically, they have interesting and unique effects. This one is quite basic, allowing Delta to move faster, but hey, at this point I'll take any sort of upgrade. The quirk of Ryan Amusements is that it has a plethora of exhibits related to Andrew Ryan and Rapture's inception. It paints him in this godlike light, and one can only wonder how much of this is true and what details got left out. As far as levels go, the Atlantic Express was fairly linear. There weren't too many alternate pathways or corridors to head down. However, Ryan Amusements is like a maze. There are chambers, tunnels, doorways, and paths that lead every which way. Rest assured, each one more or less gets explored further into the story, but at the moment, there's a lot of temptation to see just what's on the other side.
Until you arrive, Father, I'm trapped here. Smuggling these gifts out is the most I can do to help.
The whole vision plus telepathic communication shtick with Eleanor was never really explained, at least not yet. As of this moment, I'm not sure how she's able to communicate with Delta like that, but I'm sure it has something to do with their bond. Eleanor left Delta another tonic, which again goes a long way. This one allows for my drill to deal additional damage. At this point, I've kind of put the drill to the wayside, but at the end of the day, when there's no ammunition left, it's one of the few weapons that can deal basic melee damage. From here, I spent the next few minutes just looting the surrounding rooms. Again, I'd be back here sooner than later, but it never hurts to pocket more cash, ammunition, even health kits. When ready, I followed the arrow to a side chamber of the level. Here, I came across a Big Daddy and her little sister. The game hit me with the classic BioShock prompt. The little sister is the key to obtaining Adam, but first, her Big Daddy must be dealt with. Littered around the area were a bunch of items and machines that I could use to my advantage. Security bots, trap rivets, you name it.
Now that Big Daddy won't bite until you do. But to get to Lil Sis, you gotta put the old boy down for good.
In BioShock 1, this was an incredibly daunting task. Being just some guy and taking on an armored mutant with high-powered weapons was no easy feat. In BioShock 2, it's still not easy, but there is a small confidence boost knowing that it's technically an even playing field. Laying down a row of trap rivets, I then swapped over to my next special ammunition type, heavy rivets. These were specifically designed to take down bulky enemies like Big Daddies. This type of foe was the Bouncer, deadly in close melee combat, but easy enough to manage from a distance. Their claim to fame is that drill, the same one that I now have. They don't feel all that tough when you're able to relate to them like that. For a portion of the fight, the Bouncer focused his attention on my turret, allowing me to let off a handful of potshots. Closing out the fight, I gave my fellow Big Daddy a taste of his own medicine.
Take a breath, son. You did it. Now, just let her ride on your shoulders and she'll trust you like her own daddy.
Approaching the little sister, I'm able to adopt her and take her under my wing, or rather, put her atop my shoulders.
We're in business. Now, there are corpses all over Rapture, and little Dimples there can sniff out the Adam on them. Find one.
Now comes the new Adam gathering mechanic for BioShock 2, leading the little sister to corpses. It's how they harvest energy, and it's how Delta is going to get his. However, not just any old splicer corpse will do. These are specific ones. By holding the X button, I'm guided by some force to these special bodies. Interestingly, the corpses have a white glow to them. I wonder if that's just an effect from the game, or if it's how the little sisters actually see them. Maybe that's why they call them angels.
She's got a juicy one, but when she starts draining out the Adam, the splicers will come running. Be ready before you set her down on that body.
Now comes the part that I spoke of before, holding off splicers for a specified amount of time. This is when it's best to set up my defensive position and pop out those trap rivets.
That is a child of the family, not a toy for you to exploit and discard. It is fitting that you expire here. One more forgotten curio in Ryan's shrine to the self.
Here they come. Keep the splicers off her now till she's finished, or they'll never give up the hunt.
Dropping the little sister from Delta's shoulders, she begins to extract the Adam from the body. Her progress bar can be seen just below my status bars. As she does that, the energy from the atom draws in a horde of splicers. The crazed fanatics start to swarm the little sister, and it's up to me to gun them down. This is one of the easier areas to hold down the fort. With my back to a locked door and walls to my sides, the splicers can really only come from straight ahead. Taking them out as they pop in, I managed to secure the space just in time. As the little sister was finishing up, the wall behind me was breached by splicers. However, I was able to kill them off in a timely manner, and that was the end of the first round.
I'm telling the other girls that
Now you know the stakes, son. But a plasmid costs a bit more atom yet. Keep it up.
Picking up the little sister, I'm able to take 40 points worth of atom off of her. As you'll come to find out, it's not the greatest number, but it can buy me some upgrades and powers. However, the fun doesn't stop there. Round 2 for extraction leads me further into Ryan Amusements. First things first, a quick stop at the vending machines. I haven't spoken much on them as they were a major part of the first game. They behave the same way as they did in BioShock 1. They contain ammo and supplies for the player to stock up in exchange for cash. If you hack them, you get better rates. The key difference is that in this installment, they have different items for purchase. The next portion of the level had me fighting my way through groups of splicers. Of course, this is what the transitional part of the game mostly looks like. It's Delta fighting his way through a themed section of Rapture. As I continued through the back ends of Ryan Amusements, I got closer and closer to the next corpse. The second questing area had a turret in the room. This made it even easier to defend the little sister while she was extracting the atom. Same tactics were applied here, throwing down trap rivets back to a wall, eyes on the little sister at all times.
we found it.
I do not hate you, Delta. Indeed, I care for you in equal measure to any other sentient creature. But I cannot sacrifice 1,000 of my children for one rebellious son.
The motions were more or less the same for this one. I did my best to gun down anything that made it through those doorways. Honestly though, the turret did most of the heavy lifting for me, as it managed to clear out the splicers in a timely manner. Once the little sister was all done, it was time to move on to the next phase of atom harvesting.
Alright, Chief, we've almost got enough atom now. To get the rest, you'll have to take care of that little sister. There should be one of the air vents they favor in the workshop. Bring her down there.
Again, I received another 40 points of atom from the little sister. 80 is not a whole lot to work with, but it'll get me something from the Gatherer's Garden. Making my way through the rest of Ryan Amusements wasn't as bad as the previous few stretches. I didn't encounter nearly as much resistance this time round.
Now, Tannenbaum would have you turn that sister human again. You'll get just enough atom for our purposes, and the girls will likely try to repay you somehow. But Rapture's a high-stakes town, son, and she is a jackpot. You just have to be willing to take it all. You'll harvest more atom than the price of one plasmid, so the rest is gravy. Think about it. Down here, it's your survival or hers.
The age-old dilemma for BioShock: to harvest the little sisters or to save them. For now, I decided to play things by ear. BioShock 1 had multiple endings and they more or less related back to Jack's decisions with the little sisters. I believe I got the bad ending, and really, I only harvested a handful of them. There isn't much forgiveness or leeway with securing a few extra hits of atom. So for this one, I decided that I'd rescue her. Harvesting the little sisters seems way too definitive. If for next time I felt like I really needed the atom, maybe I'd consider going the other route.
Well, our Tin Man had a heart all along. Personally, I call that a liability, but you have enough atom now. Barely. Head to the Hall of the Future and splice up with Incinerate.
In the end, rescuing the little sister netted me 80 points of atom. In total, that whole ordeal amounted to 160 points. I've yet to see the cost of upgrades, plasmids, and tonics, so I'm still not sure which outcome is more worth it. In BioShock 1, I remember that Tenenbaum actually rewards the player with hits of Adam if they save about 3 or so little sisters. This was meant to make up for the deficit that otherwise would put you behind. I'd have to imagine that this game does something along those lines too, but who knows. As of this moment, Tenenbaum seems to be out of the picture. Typically too, early game is easier to go without Adam, as the action tends to only pick up when the story progresses. This means that early game, it might be hard to tell what exactly I'm missing out on. Flipping the switch for the maintenance door access, I now have an open pathway to incinerate. Running through those aforementioned unexplored areas, I more or less got to stretch my legs all the way through Ryan Amusements.
So, you would drain the people of their life's blood. Rapture is a body, Delta. I am the voice, and Big Sister is the hand. When Rapture speaks of you, it says only this: sleep now. Your day is done.
My guess is that that message plays no matter the player's choice for the little sister. It seems like all Tenenbaum cares about is having the little sisters to gather Adam, and not really what's done with them otherwise. Perhaps that's a clue into what her plans actually are, amassing Adam. As for the Gatherer's Garden, it looks as though the game took mercy on those who decided to rescue the girl. I literally had just enough Adam to buy Incinerate, the health upgrade, and Evelink. The last one allows for health kits to replenish both my health and Eve bar. As for Incinerate, it does exactly as it says. It lights things on fire. The practical use is to melt away Rapture's icy patches. These can reveal hidden passages as well as secret items. Combat-wise, it never hurts to ignite an enemy or to light an oil patch that's spilled on the ground. Leaving this stretch of Ryan Amusements, the tone takes a turn. A particularly eerie score starts playing, and these familiar screeches could be heard from the next room over. There's another big sister, likely the same one from the previous area. This time, it's a battle to the death. However, with all of my new gear, upgrades, hacked machinery, and plasmids, the fight goes a lot smoother this time round.
Holy Moses, son. Not even a big sister can keep you down. Well, come on back and melt the ice, and we can say goodbye to this 2-bit carny ride.
Hauling it back to the entrance, I put Ryan Amusements in my rear view. I was done with everything it had to offer, albeit I did get a pretty good grasp for what the rest of this game might have in store for me. On the way out, I found a recorded diary from someone named Grace Holloway. As it would turn out, Grace ends up being a very important character to the next level. Speaking of which, I haven't really touched on audio recordings yet. These obviously played a huge role in establishing the lore for the first game. They do the same in the second. You get to hear first-hand accounts from Rapture's big players, what life was like during the civilized period, during the fallout, and after everything went haywire.
Outstanding, sport. You're proving to be quite a windfall. Now just open the train tunnel from the security booth there, and I'll come out and jump on. I like to look a man in the eye when I give him my word. You and me, kid, we're going places.
I had thought you some golem of Sinclair's, brought here to hold Rapture's arms while he rifles through her pockets. But no, you are aware of your plight. Who, I wonder, would be so cruel to force a mirror on a man with no face?
Lamb was waiting for us. Come out shooting and start the train.
Remembering past experiences from BioShock 1, anytime I see a physical NPC of any kind in this game, I get major trust issues. Sinclair may seem fine and dandy for now, but I've been hurt one too many times before by my closest allies. In any case, busting out of the booth, guns blazing, I decided to spare some of my ammo and just made a break for the train car. Something important to remember for this series is that while you can receive loot, there's no XP for killing enemies. Sometimes it's better to let these moments pass. Of course, pulling the switch, the game hit me with the classic, "Are you sure you want to progress? There's no going back." I probably should have double checked that there was nothing more for me here. I don't think there was, but in any case, the game moves onwards to the next chapter.
Delta is now trapped in Pauper's Drop. All railcar travel is suspended until he is found. Remember, the enemy is alone. We are the family.
Lab's trying to box us in, kid. This is a goddamn citywide lockdown. To keep the train moving, you need the security override key from the local governor, Grace Holloway. She kicked me out of my own hotel down here, the Sinclair Deluxe. Find her and get that key.
Firstly, what in Rapture was that thing? It looked like a tank from the Left 4 Dead series. Scanning the nearby area, it seems to be gone, but I don't think that's the last I'll see of it. Secondly, there it is, the hunt for Grace Holloway, or rather her override key. That ends up being the main objective for Pauper's Drop. You know, even after coming across some unsettling scenes in this game, I have to say that so far, they really toned down the horror aspect for the sequel. It's a shame because that was one of my favorite parts about the prequel. I feel like BioShock 1 was part horror game, part action-adventure. The first half of the story was riddled with intense moments and disturbing scenes, while the second ends up being a psychological twist. For BioShock 2, the horror just isn't there.
I remember you, monster. You stole Eleanor from me. Twisted that baby girl into a thing so sick it can't even die. And now you come swanning into my neighborhood looking for me. Wrong turn, Tin Daddy. When we hang you from a street light and you choking out your last, I want you to remember my face.
To touch on the horror aspect once more, I do understand that this title is working against itself in some ways. Most of the terror for BioShock 1 was learning about Rapture, Adam, and the Splicers, so the whole start of the adventure. The reason most of the horror was tied into the beginning of the game was because that was the easiest place to put it. As Jack learns or relearns about Rapture, he comes across all of its atrocities in one sitting. It's the perfect moment for a scare. With BioShock 2 though, the player more or less knows what to expect out of the city and its inhabitants. Even so, I feel like the first game did a great job at fleshing out some of the Splicers and their personalities, adding an extra layer of creepiness.
Well, sport, I guess Gracie's home, but that big lug just dropped half my damn hotel in your way. Now, to break through that mess, I expect you're gonna have to work out how he got so burly. Find yourself a genetic research camera, son. You can pick up any number of tricks from a splicer with one of those. Try the pawn shop downtown.
Anyways, back to the story, I've apparently already made an enemy out of Grace Holloway. Whatever lies Sophia Lamb has told her have sunk in deep. I'm likely going to face a lot of resistance while trying to reach that access card. Also, that big, brutish monster from before made a reappearance. Sinclair seems to believe that studying that thing will actually help me progress through the level. I'd prefer to just kill it and be done with the whole thing, but I guess the game has other plans. For those who weren't aware, the Brute Splicer is an original concept to BioShock 2. So far, it's seemingly the most spliced NPC that I've seen. Early in BioShock 1, I got to see enemies like the Spider Splicer. As of this level, no word on their reappearance yet, but it does seem like new types of enemies are being rolled out in this installment, sort of like the Big Sisters. It's funny, earlier in the level, I related the Brute Splicer to a tank from Left 4 Dead. While mostly a joke, what I didn't realize is how similar their fighting styles actually are. They both pounce around the room, throw objects, and charge in for powerful melee attacks. Perhaps a little bit of inspiration was taken from one or the other. In any case, a challenging fight for sure. Probably on brand with the Big Daddy and Big Sister matchups.
Well, there's the pawn shop, but it's bolted up tight. You'll have to find another way inside, I expect.
Looking around the area, I found an audio recording that gave me a clue on where to head next.
What do they expect? You keep enough drug stash in this clinic to slice up a rhinoceros. Of course every poor soul in the drop's gonna start beating down your door. It's my job to think up a new key code to keep them out. Seems like every other day now. Nuts. I'll mull it over for a while at the Fishbowl Diner.
I had actually already picked this place clean. However, I'm thinking that maybe I jumped the gun. Heading back in, the only corpse I saw was at the far end of the room. Assuming this to be Tobias, just by his side, underneath a pizza box, was the code for the clinic.
Eleanor's grown now, baby snatcher. Even after what you did to her, Dr. Lamb found a way to shape that girl into something perfect, something holy. She's a daughter to us all. Nobody in Rapture will shelter you now.
Gracie's got the wrong idea. You're not responsible for turning Eleanor into a little sister. Big daddies are just slaves. And you only recently broke free.
There's certainly an interesting back and forth going on here. For starters, Tenenbaum and Sinclair keep saying that I broke free and that I'm no longer a slave. However, here I am trekking all the way through Rapture in search of a little sister who I bonded with over 10 years ago. Doesn't exactly sound like free will to me. Plus, if I don't get to her in time, apparently Delta's body shuts down. Sure, I'm able to think for myself and rationalize situations, unlike most other big daddies, but this is a type of prison that feels just as constricting. I feel like that makes Delta even more of a slave to the system than everyone's letting on. If I don't find Eleanor, he'll literally die. Then you have people like Grace and Lamb calling Delta a baby snatcher. I'm assuming that relates to his previous role as a brainwashed big daddy. However, there's still a lot of past events in Delta's life that have gone unchecked. In any case, finding a way into the pawn shop, I managed to get a hold of a research camera.
That thing's a miracle in Technicolor, kid. Works like a movie camera. Start the film rolling before you open fire on a splicer, and then anything you hit him with tells you more about his DNA. Let's give it a dry run, shall we? Easy now. Looks like you got the jump on this fella. Start your... That's it, son. Camera spits out a prize once in a while as you learn what makes a splicer tick. Now, find one of those big old brutes and take him out on film. Before long, you'll be able to brush aside that mess at the hotel.
Sinclair spat out a lot of info and didn't bother finishing what he was saying for some of it. But similarly to BioShock 1, if I perform enough research on specific enemy types, I'll learn their strengths and weaknesses, which can greatly benefit me in battle.
Using that camera's a bit like telling a joke. Each time you tell it the same way, it gets a little more stale, so you gotta change it up to keep it fresh.
The concept for the Brute Splicer research is certainly interesting. By learning more about the beast, I'll be able to pick up on new tricks and abilities. Those will in turn help me progress through the game. I can't remember if that was a mechanic in the first installment, but it certainly feels novel. In any case, on my hunt for another brute, I ended up wandering past a big daddy at the wrong time. This thing was in the heat of battle, and me walking beside it seemed to be taken as a threat. I didn't want to go through the hunt for corpses just yet, but I suppose extra hits of Adam early on are never a bad thing. Again, for the time being, I decided to rescue the little sister instead of harvesting her.
Family, that monster has taken another of our babies for his own. Tin Daddy is hollow like a jail cell that needs filling, and he will never let her go unless you hunt him down.
I still felt like I had an appropriate amount of Adam to work with, even after taking the reduced hits. Again, if it's anything like BioShock 1, harvesting is more instant gratification, while rescuing leads to a better result in the long run. It starts to pay off after a certain number of little sisters have been saved. Interestingly, since this is no longer the tutorial little sister, I have the option of harvesting her on the spot.
The monster has taken another of our children, family. He would turn her from us just as he did to Eleanor. Show this thing what befalls the boogeyman when he steps into our garden.
In theory, there are 4 points with each little sister that I could choose to throw in the towel and take all of the Adam. After defeating the Big Daddy, after she saps the Adam from both corpses, and at the vents when it's time to make a final decision. I do wonder if there's a way to maximize the amount of Adam that Delta can receive per little sister. Thinking about it, waiting until the vents and harvesting her would probably yield the greatest number, as you'd get the 80 points and then whatever hit comes at the end.
There's one of those big goons now. Start your camera rolling on him, and then let him have it.
Well, as coincidence would have it, I ended up finding the Brute Splicer and event in the same room. Talk about two birds with one stone. Rolling the camera, I was able to do a number on his health with the anti-personnel rounds. Those didn't last all that long though, and after a few shots with the heavy rivets, I was back to basic ammunition. Luckily for me, upgrading the rivet gun as a whole worked wonders, and even the basic rivets were able to shred through the rest of his HP.
Look at you, sport. A regular junior shutterbug. And it appears you've picked up a new trick from that big galoot. Now get back to the Sinclair Deluxe and just bust through that mess blocking your way.
Thanks to my research, I was able to learn a brand new trick, the classic bouncer dash. Holding the right trigger and pressing B allows for Delta to bulldoze from one end of the room to the other. After rescuing the little sister, I wandered into a nearby side room and came across another gift from Eleanor. This was the Hypnotized Plasmid. It's essentially like casting Frenzy in the Elder Scrolls. Enemies attack anyone and anything that's nearby. This was where I started to run into a first world BioShock problem though. I didn't have the slots to equip all these new powers. I was picking up new tonics and plasmids, yet I only had 4 slots and 3 slots respectively. I couldn't equip anything else until I found a Gatherer's Garden to buy more storage, or until I swapped things out at a gene bank. With that being said, I kinda liked my current loadout, so really the only action I wanted to take was finding the garden.
For Grace, the paradise of Andrew Ryan was most unkind. She spoke against him in song, and he had her blacklisted. It left her penniless. But in the family, she has found hope, a reason to draw breath. Ask yourself, Delta, do you deserve to take it from her?
That's not the first time I've heard Sophia Lamb refer to something called the family. Call me Einstein, but I'm thinking that it's likely her umbrella term for all of the allies in Rapture who believe in her cause, aka Grace, the big bosses of the other levels, and the Splicers. It's sort of like how Andrew Ryan had his host of big cheeses scattered throughout Rapture, although I don't think they had a cultish name like that. Not to mention, Grace's future dialogue hints at the family working towards a bigger picture.
Just rev up that drill of yours and slam right through that pile of junk blocking your way.
Drill dashing through the rubble, Delta was finally able to gain access to the apartment complex. Here, I was one step closer to reaching Grace Holloway and obtaining the access key.
Now Gracie was on the top floor. Get on up there and persuade her to give you that override key.
Traveling through the apartment complex, again I encountered unsettling scenes, but nothing like the horrors of BioShock 1. It'll take a little more than a dark hallway to scare this guy.
The baby snatcher's headed up into the hotel, family. He wants me so he can get to Eleanor. Tin Daddy feels no guilt. Tin Daddy feels no pain. But we are the family and we can teach him how.
The crawl through the corridors involves Delta taking on a host of splicers. Because the scene is enclosed, dark, and unfamiliar, they take advantage and typically surprise attack the player. It's a nice touch from the classic run and gun type of gameplay that I've experienced thus far.
Watching you hurt shouldn't give me such a lift, monster. But I'm not as clean on the inside as the doctor. I'll take my joy where I can.
Fully upgrading the rivet gun, this thing now shreds through enemies. It deals increased damage, rivets have a chance of igniting my foes, and I have increased clip size. It's at this point that I started to feel fairly confident in my build.
Blood divides us, monster. It's blood that makes us strangers. But thanks to Dr. Lamb, we're all family now. One people, one cause. You can stop this heart bleed, this old body, but you cannot end the family. And as for you, Tin Daddy, you're dying alone.
Typically, when an enemy spouts more and more threats, that means that you're getting close. Holloway should be coming up real soon. For now though, the trek through the rundown apartments and battling against splicers continues. Most of the enemies faced in here are thuggish and leadhead splicers. Only once did I have to go through a brute, but his health was already low due to some surrounding flames.
Gracie's room is just up ahead. Now, she's been sending all manner of unkindness your way, so I'm not particular as to how you take that key away from her, but she's old, and this grudge against you was based on a misunderstanding.
It's now that Sinclair sows the seed of mercy. He tosses the idea that I have a choice in Holloway's fate. Let her live, who knows what that'll lead to, or kill her, again an unknown outcome.
We both died tonight, monster. I, because your kind has killing in its nature. And you, because there's no way the family will let you stroll out alive with that key.
It's clear that Grace seems quite upset and honestly hateful towards Delta. Even if I let her live, what are the odds that what goes around comes around? However, once again, death is very definitive in this series. It breaks bridges and builds walls. I found that in BioShock 1, the be-all, end-all decisions tend to not be as glamorous as I initially thought. Then on the other hand, keeping those loose ends in the picture usually tends to spice things up. Whether for the better or for the worse is kind of a toss-up, but it moves the story in different ways. Decisions. Stumbling around Grace's apartment, it took me a while to find the hidden switch. It was covered by a poster of Sophia Lamb. Tearing it down, it gave me access to a secret compartment that led through her closet. On the other side was a panic room with Holloway stationed inside.
I know what you're here for. Go on, take it. I won't have you touching me. Dr. Lamb trusted me to care for her child. And I tried. But baby Eleanor disappeared. And then one day, I see her walking with you, looking wrong. And when I tried to hold her, you knocked me down. Broke my jaw. So I'm ready, baby snatcher. Come on in and finish the job.
Your call, friend. Grace is unarmed, for what it's worth.
Well, there you have it. More pieces to the puzzle come to light. From Holloway's perspective, I'm the evil one. I took Eleanor from Grace and hurt her when she tried to rescue the girl. Combine that with the misinformation from Lamb, and it sort of makes sense as to why she hates Delta. Honestly, Grace isn't anywhere near creepy enough for me to put her down.
To hell with you then. Go on.
You're a bigger man than I am, Chief. Maybe next time she'll think twice about pointing fingers before all the facts are in. Now, let's be on our way. Eleanor's waiting.
You had me under a gun, yet you just walk away? No monster alive turns the other cheek. No monster does that. A thinking man does that. I know that Dr. Lamb is no liar, but she's got to be wrong about you. Doesn't seem right now, letting you walk into that bushwhack waiting outside. I can't call off the family, but I can whisper a bit and improve your odds. These whirlybirds are custom jobs by an old friend. I'm afraid this is all I can do for now.
I think the freaks and sadists of Rapture are probably the ones I'd have a tough time letting walk. For Grace, though, all I see is an older woman who was just doing her job. She sounded like Eleanor's babysitter. Sure, she had some alleged lies enter her head, but she also lived her truth. She had a run-in with Delta and got a bad impression of him from the get-go. Those create the perfect storm for a brand new enemy. In a way, I bet Sophia Lamb is the same way. I'm eager to have a face-to-face meeting with her, and hopefully there, we'll get to see what's really going on. Plus, letting Grace live had its benefits. She supplied me with a few security bots that could escort me to the train station. First things first though, I have one thing left to do here. Deal with the final little sister. Moving on to the next level without all of my potential atom drops would be detrimental. That's how Delta becomes underpowered, and that's when late game becomes incredibly difficult. This was honestly a whole ordeal though. First, I had to defeat the Big Daddy. For that one, it was business as usual. The security bots helped me out a ton, and I had just finished hacking some other machines in the area. After that, a brute splicer attacked. This was a random encounter. It doesn't really deserve to be lumped into my experience, but I'm doing it anyway. Then I had to protect the little sister while she drained the two corpses, so the standard. For now, the difficulty there was about the same as the previous ones. The progress bar slowly fills up, and I fight for my life to protect her. Honestly, I'm still unsure how I feel about this brand new atom gathering process. From the perspective of a Big Daddy, it's pretty immersive. She pulls this mysterious energy from dead bodies, and I fight off the incoming splicers. Practically though, it's a bit of a nightmare. It's very involved and honestly takes a while to do. I think the trade-off in this game is that no matter what you decide, harvesting or rescuing, you do end up with even more Atom than the first game. More effort means more points to spend on tonics and plasmids. However, there are now an extra 3 steps to saving a little sister. It's no longer as simple and straightforward as defeating the Big Daddy. Of course, I could always harvest the little sister from the get-go, and that would surely speed things up. I guess that's the other trade-off. The evil route cuts corners, while the righteous one is very hands-on. In any case, after rescuing the girl, I received a chilling notification. I heard an ear-piercing screech, and the game sent me a prompt saying, "A big sister is coming for you, get ready for a fight." If you recall, earlier I said that in BioShock 1, Tenenbaum rewards the player for saving the little sisters by sending in care packages. While it comes in a much different form, this is BioShock's 2 version of said care package. This is how Delta makes up for the Atom deficit. Rushing back to the central area, I set up in the middle of all my hacked machines and security bots. At first, the big sister aggroed onto my turret and destroyed it. She took some damage in the process, but not enough to make a huge difference. After moving over to her location, she leapt down from the rooftops and turned her attention to me. This matchup was a lot trickier than the last 2. Even with all of the extra help and upgraded weaponry, she was still putting up one heck of a fight. Also, I guess the game decided to throw a brand new ability their way. The big sisters are able to heal themselves by snatching nearby splicers and absorbing all of their Atom. That's certainly something to beware of for future encounters. It was long, it was dirty, and it was tough, but I finally bested the big sister in our duel. The nice part is that they carry small hits of Atom as well, so those can go a long way at the Gatherer's Garden.
Well, sir, I don't know what to call you now. You've done more than just spare my life. You've opened my eyes. I need to put a few questions to Dr. Lamb.
By sparing grace, do you seek to gain my trust? A feeble ruse. Your crocodile tears may poison her with doubt, but I am not so easy a mark.
With everything taken care of in Pauper's drop, I returned to the train station and inserted the access card into the console. Overriding the lockdown, Delta is now one step closer to finding Eleanor, as well as learning more about his backstory and just who this Sophia Lamb is.